We won't be done in 20 minutes.
We can set all that up for him. I would,
Yeah.
I'd leave that up to him.
So the question is, do we want to have Mr. Sure adequate for these offices? Boy, when you're going in and trying to move it.
You're thinking 20 minutes because Herb isn't here?
20 to 30, yeah.
Well, he's liable to show up.
Good evening. We'll call the normally scheduled meeting of Ways and Means to order for Wednesday, May 16th, 7 p.m. We would appreciate it if you turn your cell phones off, then we won't have to throw you out. Anybody can make any videos, audios, or other recordings of this meeting to their liking. We have some visitors tonight that are here. I hope to learn perhaps some of the way government operates, and just for their explanation, the County Board of Commissioners is made up of 9 commissioners. We have 1 absent tonight, excused absence, Herb Lemkool, but we also have 3 committee meetings during the month. Our main meeting is the last Wednesday of each month, and we discuss items here and we vote on them, but the official action actually takes place 2 weeks from tonight, the last Wednesday of the month. And we call these committee meetings committees of the whole because all 9 commissioners are normally present. And so instead of having a bunch of little committees like we used to have, this way we all hear the same thing at one time. And I would hope you stated duration of the meeting. Probably is going to get boring for some of you, but I'll try and keep it lively. Okay, we've called her to order. Now we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to have Chairman Inman lead it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would you call the roll call, please?
Commissioner Gilman?
Here.
Inman?
Here.
Henschel?
Yes.
Richardson?
Here.
Thomas?
Here.
Max Bauer? Here. Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Present. And you have Herb.
Herb excused.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of April 18th, regular session.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion's unanimous. Now we come to the first public comment. I'm going to have the deputy clerk read the rules for this, and anybody wishing to address the committee may do so by approaching the bench, stating your name and address, and go ahead and speak to us.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Orders of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, having heard the rules, is there anyone wishing to comment? None of our guests? You're all going to be bashful? This is your opportunity. And you're even on TV. Seeing none, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. We've got a couple requests, and I'll have Mr. Bott talk about the first one.
The first one is amendment. It's a CPBC agreement amendment number 3. I'd like to add that under my section, Administration and Human Resources. And we have Jerry Pugh, the interim health officer, here to discuss that with us.
Okay, and the next item is, they'd like to place it under special orders of business. A, we would call the MAC presentation B, and that's
A would be Commission on Aging.
Commission on Aging, and I'll have Christine address that matter.
Have we approved the agenda?
No. I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
With A
Yeah,
being
but
Commission on
Did
Aging
you
under...
tell them what you wanted to add?
Yes, Commission on Aging Office
I see.
renovation.
Okay.
A being Commission on Aging Office renovation. B, under special order of business, being MAC, Pooled Procurement Program for Counties.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda as approved with the two additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. Next item would be A, and Christine?
Georgia, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium to answer some questions if commissioners have any. On your desk is a proposed office renovation for the Commission on Aging office space. We approved a $50,000 expenditure in this year's budget for an office renovation. However, the Commission on Aging Board feels very strongly that we cannot afford that right now. And so we asked Georgia to take a look at the bare minimum of what we need. We presently have 2 offices that need furniture, and we also, and this is extremely important, we need to make our counter space ADA compliant. We need to soundproof several offices. Right now, there are conversations with clients that are confidential, and they can be heard by members of the public, by MSU staff that use the building, and come in and out by anyone. We discuss, staff discuss with clients, income, health issues, and there needs to be some level of confidentiality, not only for our clients, but for the managers. If they have a discussion, a private discussion with an employee, it can be heard through the walls. So we asked Georgia to take a look at absolutely the bare minimum, and this is what the bare minimum is, what it will cost. So I am asking the board for approval, keeping in mind that we did budget $50,000, we only plan to spend $14,600. I'm asking the board for approval of what we feel is the minimum for office renovation at the Front Street building. And it is a minimum. We also, by the way, have a leaky ceiling.
That's
Ross?
ongoing.
Christine, why does this require board approval? I mean, if you've budgeted $50,000...
The Commission on Aging Board asked that it be approved by the county board. They would like our support.
Well, if you've budgeted $50,000, you're only spending $15,000, I don't know
Also,
why it's in front of
Commissioner
us.
Wheelock did request that any kind of renovation come back to this board, and that is another reason I'm bringing it back.
Sonny?
Well, probably we should have a motion and a second first before discussion.
All right.
Chris made the motion.
I certainly will make the motion that
I will
we...
support for discussion. I won't support this until I hear from our facilities director. We have a facilities department. If we're asking to have facilities remodeled, I believe it's appropriate to have our facilities department weigh in on any renovations.
Can I address that? Sure. My recommendation, I have a memo here from Danny, and I can, I actually brought copies that I folded in half, but this, the 8,600 came from Danny with the list of things, and he's waiting for our approval. He's been over and looked at it. I don't know if he's approached you, but he has. We've worked with him for a couple months now. So I have a copy of this if you want to see it. I can pass it out, circulate it.
Dean, do you have any input on this?
I know that Danny has been working with Georgia to to bring this cost down, and Danny feels comfortable that his staff can do the work, so I have no issue with this project. I do believe it needs to be done for the reasons that Commissioner Max Bauer has indicated.
Ross?
So, Dean, so staff is going to provide the labor on this?
Correct.
So the amount of money we see is just for the materials that are needed to complete this?
That is correct.
Rob?
Georgia, how long has the situation been as it is?
The confidentiality thing, since we moved in, but we didn't used to have much walk-in traffic. We have a lot more now, and we have, like, we do taxes, and people sit and wait for their appointments, or we have people coming in for heating assistance, they sit and wait for an appointment, and we have, our phones are a lot busier, so we have a lot more interaction on the telephone than we used to. And the ADA compliance issue with our counter, we never knew that when we put our furniture in, so we're going to make one counter lower and leave one counter higher, so that it's accessible.
So how many years have you been in that building?
12 years, this July.
Okay, so for 12 years, we've had this issue, maybe not as bad, but now we're addressing it in a year when we're looking at cutting services or raising prices to clients. Why now?
Well, actually, we started looking at it last year and tried to get quotes. We actually had a much larger quote, I think you might recall, and the county board, and I know Commission on Aging board said, no, go back and reduce it. So that's why we've been working on that. And the soundproofing of the offices, we weren't really aware that our conversations could be heard until probably last year, that our conversations were being heard outside the office, so that's quite important.
After this renovation, is there a guarantee that those conversations won't be able to be heard anymore?
Danny feels comfortable that it should, he's hopeful, yeah.
I guess the reason I ask is because I've been to a few different doctor's offices, really nice new facilities, but I can hear what's going on in the next room, and I'm sure a lot of other people can too, so I kind of wonder about that if we're going to spend some money and then just have to spend more later.
He feels that this is enough. We talked about that in length, but
Larry with the Florida tan.
There was a little work, too. Refresh my memory, is this coming out of the Commission on Aging budget, and then it's not out of our capital improvement fund in the
No.
county? Okay, all right, that's all you need to know.
other than facilities, the employees that we use
No,
for
we're actually-
facilities, but
we're-
we pay indirect costs
Oh,
for
okay.
that,
Right,
so.
okay.
Just a real quick question. You know, we're still sharing space with the MSU Extension folks and everything. And you have a furniture allocation here for $5,000. Are they not providing enough apple crates? I'm sorry.
Well, actually, they were very gracious and let us use an office in the basement, so 2 of our supervisors moved to the lower level, but they took their furniture with them, so we have 2 open spots upstairs that need furniture, so we're looking at recycled. It may not cost that much, and we're going to try to not have it cost that much, but it might, so.
Now, but in all seriousness, have we assessed any of the inventory of the other county properties?
We have. We've
Okay.
talked with Danny about all that. We're actually going to use one panel that they have, but most of the rest of it has been used, that's usable. But we're still going to look at recycled furniture through a local vendor, so keep the cost down.
Any other discussion or questions? Everybody understand the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Inman,
Yes.
Henschel,
No.
Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Wheelock,
No.
Gilman,
Yep.
please,
Yes,
passed.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is MAC, the Pool Procurement Program for Counties. MAC stands for Michigan Association of Counties. We have a gentleman here by the name of Steve Curry. Would you 2 gentlemen identify yourselves, please?
Sure. One's Steve and one's Curry, right?
Thanks for having us here today. My name is Steve Curry. This is Sean Carlson. We're going to talk to you a little bit today about the CoPro Plus program, cooperative procurement program that we're trying to put together through MAC. It's an effort to help not only save the counties money, but save them time through purchasing. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Sean, and we'll try not to take up too much of your time.
Okay, well, I'll get started right into it. Again, as Steve said, I just start with the first slide. It's a cooperative procurement program, and part of the goal here is fulfilling MAC's mission of improving county and local governments through cooperative and mutual efforts. It answers the call to stretching limited revenue, responds to the governor's focus on shared services, and it's more than just cooperative purchasing. You've probably heard cooperative purchasing used in the past. It's an end-to-end model of starting with the statement of work all the way through a contract closeout. So the pre-award phase, the award phase, and also scorecarding and benchmarking the vendors after a contract's been awarded. Roles and responsibilities. MAC Service Corps, CoPro Plus, market the shared services networks across the counties. CoPro Plus also will develop the statement of work, provide and manage the resources during the pre-award and the award phase, and scorecard and manage the vendor performance. What we're looking for is county sponsors that will sign and execute the master contract. That helps achieve a couple of things. A lot of counties, a lot of local units of government have not only competitive bidding as part of their ordinances or the regulations or the law, but also in regards to being able to piggyback off of those contracts. And the idea on a cooperative procurement contract is to create a master contract so then other counties can piggyback off of that and not have to go through the same process. This is a little bit of the business flow here, so not to get too busy with the model here, but county contract sponsor will MAC Service Corps, CoPro Plus, if I start on the far left here, they'll coordinate and market the program, develop the contract with the vendor. Once a master contract is established, then we'll look for other counties and local units of government to see if they would like to purchase off of the contract as well. Obviously, the vendor will deliver the goods and services to the respective counties, whatever is ordered off of those contracts. The benefits being a sponsor county is obviously lowering the cost by leveraging the volume for better price points. That is why cooperative purchasing is around. Same thing here with cooperative procurement. Enhancing the effectiveness of staff by redeploying staff to other critical tasks. Obviously, if you don't have to go through an office supplier, a furniture contractor, a fuel contractor, or anything else, and you've got that already taken care of, you can redeploy those staff. So there's some soft savings there. Increasing efficiency through ready-to-use contracts, having those available, and then sharing a higher dividend payout with a county sponsor and executing the master contract. There'll be a higher dividend payout than the piggyback arrangement. And then the shared services model that will qualify for Category 1 of EVIB. So, real quick slide presentation, and just wanted to kind of give an overview and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, so just to recap real quick, with the program, the CoPro Plus, the plus is that there's a dividend paid back to the participating counties. We're looking for you to participate as a sponsor county. So as a sponsor county, there would be an extra incentive to be part of the program as well, and that's kind of what we're here to talk to you about today is the sponsor county. And then we'll obviously go out and, like Sean discussed, we'll do most of the work. And your involvement or your new administrator's involvement is as much as they want it to be. If they want to be very involved in the negotiation with the vendors, they can be. If they want to let us handle it, that's fine too. And just to give a little background on Sean helped develop and come up with the My Deal program, which I'm sure you've all heard of, which is another state-run cooperative purchasing program. He's very familiar with how it works, and he can probably comment a little more, but our feeling is that program has become very stagnant and not as responsive to what the needs of local government is. So that's why we are coming up with this program to respond to the needs of counties and other local municipalities that may want to participate in it.
I've spent 20 years in public procurement, currently a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard for Battle Creek as a contracting officer, and that's where I got my start in procurement. And was the chief procurement officer for 4 years, and as Steve mentioned, helped develop the My Deal program there. So we're really just looking for innovative ways to make shared services work for all the counties and other local units of government that may want to purchase off of the contract too. So, so that's...
Jason?
Has this been done? I mean, to this point, I mean, has it been done elsewhere where we could look at the results, look at how well it's working? Anything similar to it?
There are similar programs, but not to the extent that there's a dividend return to the shareholders in the program. So U.S. Communities is a nationally run one, but that is, there's no dividend that goes back to the shareholders, so it's just a pooled procurement program. My Deal is another one, that's the state-run one. What Mitten Group is?
The REMC, Regional Educational Media Centers, most of the intermediate school districts have a REMC. They do this as well, but as Steve is mentioning, this is a model that's different in regards to actually sharing some funding back with those that are involved in regards to a dividend. As Steve mentioned, U.S. Communities and the others don't share that back with those that purchase off of the program.
But like the U.S. Communities one, that's a nationally run one through NACO, and they have, I think it's L.A. County, Los Angeles County is their sponsor county essentially in that program.
And this is more than just commodities too. This would be services as well.
Russ?
What's the source of the dividend?
The source of the dividend would be an administrative fee in regards that the vendor is paying, that would pay to CoPro Plus, to Max Service Corps, and then that fee is then shared with the sponsor county as well as the other counties that have purchased off of that.
So let's say there is a commodity we're purchasing. There's going to be a price, but that price is going to include a fee that's paid to CoPro.
Right.
And then CoPro takes what it needs of that to run the program and gives the rest back to the county?
That's correct.
Rob, did you have your hand up?
Well, he actually asked my question, but I guess to piggyback on your question where the fee comes from, if I'm a vendor, how am I more competitive bidding with a fee built in rather than bidding straight without a fee?
Yeah, if you're a vendor, I mean, first of all, you're leveraging volume. So the higher the volume, you're gonna drive down the price points. The fees aren't always going to be the same. Depends what the program is and how much maintenance it is involved. And the other thing is, part of the program is looking to not necessarily do single awards, maybe doing multiple awards to vendors. That way, counties have their option to choose a vendor. So really looking at a model that's saying there may be 3 or 4 that are considered responsive and responsible vendors that provide good price points. For instance, in the federal government, they have the General Services Administration that puts together a catalog of services that the different federal departments use, and they can purchase off of those contracts. And there are small fees that are charged in order to put those programs together.
And we're aggregating that volume, whereas if you're a vendor, you may have access to Grand Traverse County, but not access to Montcalm County, and we're aggregating that and that volume together, so they're willing to pay a fee to get to that aggregation.
And how are you more competitive than like the state of Michigan's procurement program?
Well, the state of Michigan's procurement program right now, there is people, more and more people, especially with the revenue cuts that have taken place across the state of Michigan. I'm on the school board down in Huron Valley and west part of Oakland County, so usually on certain nights of the week I sit in the same seats that you're sitting in. There has been a need for more shared services, and people are looking for it. It's not necessarily because of better price points. It's actually been because staffs have been cut and short because of people having to tighten the belt a little bit, and more people are looking to purchase off of these programs, just because there's soft savings involved in regards to not having to run a solicitation for 3 or 6 months. But in regards to the state of Michigan lately has been really focused about their departments and less about the local units of government. So from a service perspective.
And the way their program works, I don't know if you've ever checked it out, but it's very bulky and cumbersome to try to get to the contracts. We've actually developed a user interface, a software. You log in, approvals are done, automated. It's a very much like an Amazon interface where you can type in, let's say you wanted pens. You type in pens and then it'll spit out all these different pens, and then you can kind of pick it out, and then you can set limits on approval, however the approval process goes. It's a very slick system, very easy to use, and that's part of it, is we wanted it very easy to use.
Do you have safeguards built in for quality? And do you also have safeguards built in such that we're not blindly paying $400 for a hammer?
Well, you can set, yes, with the user interface, you can set limits on who can purchase what, as far as that goes. And then, yes, quality would be built into the contract that's done with the vendor. So there would definitely be a quality, delivery, lead times, all that would be in that contract.
So if a vendor is habitually giving bad quality products, are they kicked out?
Yeah, that's where he talked about the scorecard, the vendor scorecard. They would get a scorecard, probably quarterly, annually maybe, that would rate them on various things, delivery time, quality, customer service, variety of different things.
Last question, is there any, or have you considered implementing something of a reverse auction system similar? I think Kalamazoo County
Kent does that.
Kent County, has something like that. Is that part of this program, or?
Well, this is an option for us to use as we're bidding it out, to look at a reverse auction. There are some things that are better for reverse auction than others. Commodities that are, or MRO services, hey, we need landscaping, or we need cutting of the lawn, it needs to be, so many inches every 2 weeks, where the service level agreements are very specific, or commodity is very specific. It lends itself to be a great candidate for a reverse auction. And we will look at deploying reverse auctions in those situations. In other places where it may call for more of an interface with the vendor, we'll call those vendors in and talk to them. For instance, if there's IT services or managing IT interfaces. But so it depends upon what it is.
And it would be open to local vendors as well, so sometimes, people like to deal with local vendors. They would be able to participate in the program as a vendor as well.
Right.
And it could be regionalized, so maybe there's someone up in northern Michigan that does roadkill removal and someone in western Michigan that does it differently. We can, through the software program, we can have it regionalized that way.
Sonny?
Well, a couple things. One, historically, we've participated very well through state purchasing, primarily for police vehicles, and other vehicles. We almost always buy those through state purchasing. That being said, I'm not sure I would be interested in a program that required, or we were involved in, with both commodities and services. I'm going to promote using local vendors for every service that I can possibly promote, and these people, are providing jobs and paying taxes in our community. We have in our purchasing policy a 5% benefit to those, and I would hate to be bound into a situation where Montcalm County got the cheapest bid for, ABC service, and a company in Traverse City can't sell us the product or can't provide us the service because we are already tied into a contract somewhere else.
Can I just answer that?
Sure.
Real quick? I just want to re-emphasize that we are not necessarily picking one vendor. So if Traverse City comes in and we're looking at the price that they're a responsible bidder, and they're a local community, then they would be on that list along with the others. So then you would have the option and the choice to say, here's the 5 vendors. Yes, our local vendor, I'm just in this scenario, yes, our local vendor is a little bit higher, but they're not much higher. We want to keep the dollars in Grand Traverse County. We're going with the local vendor. That option still rests with you in this program, and that's what we're trying to build, that flexibility and those options in.
The other thing that I will comment is, from a business standpoint, I probably am solicited at least a dozen times a month by different organizations that want me to register for providing certain fees and services. And so I'm in government purchasing, and I'm advertised as a vendor to these services. At least a dozen times a month, I get those from everywhere, from Washington DC to California to God knows where they come from. They come on my email, they come on my telephone, and they are continuous. And 90% of the time, I get rid of, delete all of them because I'm not going to screw with it. I've played that game a couple times, and you spend hours and hours trying to get the paperwork ready to be a registered vendor, and you're going to sell the same job to the National Park Service that I'm selling to them right now. And it just, from a vendor standpoint, I wouldn't monkey with it. It's too much monkeying around.
Larry?
Well, I just want to disclose to everyone that that at the last MAC conference, I was approached by the MAC staff because of the history of Grand Traverse County and the history of the commissioners involved in Grand Traverse County, along with administrators from Grand Traverse County, that they thought Grand Traverse County would be a good candidate as a sponsor because of the long-term relationship we've had with MAC. And I think that's the reason why they're up here to go over this with us, to give us an opportunity. If we're interested, we would be on the front end of this whole thing. And I just for your disclosure, I am on the Michigan Association of County Service Corporation Board. So probably wouldn't be able to vote on this technically because they would be receiving money, but and then it would be corresponding back. I'd have to ask Bob about that, but the other thing I had mentioned to Steve is that since we've completed our administrator search and Dave's expected to be up here sometime after June 18th or something like that, I mean, even if as one commissioner, I would say, I'd really like to have Dave look into this and come back with a recommendation rather than trying to respond tonight. That would be my personal feeling, but again, I sort of probably have a conflict with this thing, so I just wanted to disclose it.
Christine?
Are either of you familiar with Florida's system? And if so, how does this differ? And if not, I'm going to tell you what happened in Florida.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Vaguely, I know that Florida has some state laws that try to push out local unit of government, but I would not say that this...
Florida has a piggyback system. And where, for instance, Sarasota County can piggyback onto Lee County to a contract that they have, and they can receive that same service or product from that vendor. What was happening in Sarasota County, and there are several individuals who are on their way to jail right now, is some individuals that had purchasing authority in Sarasota County. Now, keep in mind, Sarasota is much larger than Grand Traverse, but they were being entertained by vendors with Super Bowl tickets, cruises, extremely generous gifts. And in return, the purchasing people in Sarasota County were choosing, for instance, a particular vendor from Lee County or from Palm Beach County, whatever. What kind of safeguards do you put in to, and you don't have to answer this right now, but I just would like you to think about it. What kind of safeguards do you have built in, or ideas of safeguards, so that something similar would not happen with this?
Well, you would have your regular terms and conditions in the RFP process that would require people to disclose. For instance, a vendor, if they were part of the development of the statement of work. For instance, at the state of Michigan, that's a clause that we brought into the RFP process, because there were a lot of vendors. Well, vendors are trying to sell to different departments, and what they would call is, backdoor selling, which they're going in and saying, hey, look at my product, and putting those statements of work in. It's not necessarily that those vendors are bad vendors, it's just that needed to be disclosed so everybody knew where that came from, and that was identified. So I give that just as an example of disclosures and having those clauses to require people to disclose any conflicts of interest or any prior knowledge on an RFP or any of that. That stuff unfortunately does happen not only in Florida and other places in the federal government and in places, and it's unfortunate, but we would put those safeguards in the terms and the conditions and the requirements of the RFP process.
Russ?
I take it the dividends we would qualify for would be based on how much money we spend?
Right, based on participation of the counties that participated in that specific contract. So maybe there's a contract that some counties want to participate in that's through CoPro, but maybe there's other ones that are not. So that would be based on the dollar amount.
But as a sponsor county, even if you didn't participate and it was your master contract, you would receive a dividend for having the master contract and developing the master
We could have a
contract.
master contract for something that we didn't purchase, and yet we'd receive dividends for it.
Think Amway.
That's not a good connection, Jason. My other question was, just getting back to, like, you mentioned services, things like computer, software servicing contracts, because that's something we seem to spend a ton of money on.
Yes, that's something that we've actually talked about, IT services and support. And that's obviously something that would have to be regionalized, because you can't have someone in Ann Arbor necessarily servicing computers up here, so it'd definitely be a local vendor in that particular
Well,
instance.
actually, that seems to be the case. I mean, when we bid these things out, sometimes we get local vendors, and many times, everything's done from afar anymore anyway, but, there's a whole lot more money involved in that than there is in purchasing pens, for instance.
Yes, there is. And that's the piece. Some of these services, especially with IT, making sure that you have options and choices, and that's one of the benefits of a program like this, of qualifying different vendors, and then it'll allow you to have the choice of who you want to issue a purchase order against.
Okay, now, if we were to sign up for this, are we bound to purchase through you folks, or?
If you're executing the master contract, there is not a commitment of volume that's required. So if it is a desire, or you don't have a need for that particular item for the fiscal year that you're in, or even the next year, but maybe in year 3 you do, that may be the reason why you're going forward. Certainly, as we're assessing which ones to go forward with, we would very much want to know what Grand Traverse County needs and what would benefit them as the sponsor county.
But you want us to sign up as a sponsoring county, and I guess what I haven't seen is any kind of, terms and conditions as far as what our responsibilities would be for that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we would have to get you the nitty-gritty, and you kind of saw the slide that Sean had up there of roles and responsibilities there of the county sponsor. It's to sign and execute the contract with the vendor. So it's going to vary, the terms and conditions are going to vary on those contracts depending on what the product is.
So when you say master contract, there's basically a master contract on each item or service
Separate.
that's being offered separately, so
It's not one for everything.
There could be hundreds or thousands of master contracts.
No, it'll be the contract for that particular service or commodity.
Christine?
Well, I'm certainly not willing to say yes right now, nor am I willing to say no. I would like our new administrator to take a look at this. And then if he believes that it's something that we should consider,
Yeah, we totally...
then I'm willing to.
Because he's going to play an integral role
at
in
it.
this, obviously, as much role as he wants. He can be very involved or not very involved. But yes, this was more of a, informational kind of, we wanted
And
to
I
make sure
appreciate
you
that.
guys understood it and could talk about it, so when he does come on board, you guys can talk intelligently and understand each other, so.
I have one question.
Yep.
So you need, in order to get this thing up and running, you need one county to sign up as a sponsor county, and then there'll be only one sponsor county in the state, is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
There'll be other sponsor counties?
No, initially there'll be, we're going to start with 5 different commodities, and commodities, services, we're still putting that list together. So initially it'd be those 5 to start, because we don't want to take off more than we can chew. We want to focus on some things that people are going to use.
Chris?
If our administrator and the board thinks that this is a good fit, and we try it, and we don't like it, can we withdraw?
That's something we would probably have to put in to that contract and look into further.
Okay.
Can't really answer that
All
right
right.
now, but
Thank you.
it's something we can look into.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We
Thank you.
appreciate your presentation,
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
and thanks for coming up.
No problem.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Would you read the rules for the consent calendar?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, disclosure letter from Wheelock & Sons, Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office. Number 2, IT staffing, image support position. Approval. Number 1, General Fund, April 30th, 2012, trial balance, General Fund revenue and expenditure summaries. Number 2, budget adjustments. Number 3, rental rate for 2012.
Thank you. Having heard the items on the consent calendar, is there anybody in the audience wishing any item to be removed? Seeing none on the board. Sonny?
Do I need to remove item A1, please?
All right. Any others?
Just a clarification, Mr. Chairman. Did we already approve item number 2 under A? I thought we already did that at our last meeting.
Well, that's what the note says, is that it's already been authorized and they've determined that the
receive and
position is
file.
already in the staffing plan, so we don't have to amend the
receive and
staffing
file.
plan.
Oh, just to receive and file? Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Ross?
I move we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item A1.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to approve the consent calendar with the exception of A1. All in favor?
Aye.
You got to have a
Opposed?
roll
No.
Roll call vote.
I always forget to.
Commissioner Henschel?
Yes.
Listen for you.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Okay, next item is items removed from the consent calendar. A1 was removed. Commissioner Wheelock?
The reason I had this removed is obviously myself and my staff completed this work in accordance to the purchasing plan. It didn't have to be pre-approved in that it's less than $500, so, but I have to abstain on the vote to pay for it.
Ross?
I move that we receive and file the disclosure letter from Wheelock & Sons vis-a-vis the Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office project.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Everybody understand the motion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Well, we'll have a roll call being insisting.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Abstain, please.
Gilman?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Okay. Number 9 is department action items. We have the treasurer I see in attendance, wishing probably to address us. Bill, you're on.
Bill Rokas, Grand Traverse County Treasurer. What I'm here today is to go over the delinquent tax revolving fund. Recently just settled with the local units for the 2011 taxes. So what I'd like to do briefly is just go over you the year-end numbers for 2011, and then go over some of those settlement numbers to show you where we're at currently in the delinquent tax revolving fund. For fiscal year 2011, if you concentrate on the third column to the left, we started the year with roughly $12,500,000 in fund balance in this fund, and ended the year with $12,120,000. So there was a decrease in the fund over the previous year. That was mainly due to the additional appropriation that we made available to the board last year in 2011. And we, for fiscal year 2012, we approved to make available an additional amount similar to 2011. But you'll see the estimate for 2012 is that we're pretty much going to break even for 2012 in the revolving fund. The big things I want to talk to you about, our collections are up quite a bit. You can see at the end of December of 2011, even though our fund balance went down, our cash balance increased at the end of the year by 1.2 million. And that just reflects the additional delinquent taxes that are being collected instead of still being outstanding as delinquent taxes the year before. Then if you go down into the second, under that underline, that 2011 there, that's the tax year levy. So this is the levy that I just settled in March of this year, 2012, even though it says 2011, that's the tax year. And you can see our levy the total levy of all the taxing units that I settled was just under 153 million, which was down from the year before of 157 million. So we had less taxes to collect, which you all realize that with our reduction in SEV and taxable value. But as you can see, the delinquent rate that I just settled turned out to be 5.3% delinquent, which is down from the year before of 5.99, and down from the 2 years before that were 6.5%. And those percentages make some big differences when you're dealing with the amount of delinquent taxes that we have. As you can see, what I had to purchase this year for all the taxing units was $7,980,000, which is down from the year before where we had $9,161,000. So the cash position in this fund is looking much better than it did a couple of years ago. And that's even with making those additional appropriations to the general fund and capital fund that we've been making. So, based on that, based on this settlement, I think in your budget adjustments today, there were some budget adjustments for the delinquent tax revolving fund, reducing some revenue, and that was a result of the original estimate that I had was higher than the 7.9 million delinquent taxes. So we reduced the delinquent taxes, we reduced the revenue that's coming to this fund. And other than that, some other things that happened this year in the revolving fund, this was the first year that we used the BSNA software, which you authorized me to purchase about 6 months ago. That went extremely well with the townships this year, and I think that'll be a big plus moving forward for the future treasurer, whoever that is to be. So I think that's a good thing that we did last year, and it did it did work out very well. BSNA personnel are very very available, even though it's out of Kalamazoo. They can remote in and assist you on the reports that you want to make, and it was a very good system. Also, in March of this year, we also foreclose on properties, and this, we're just finished out the collection of the 2009 taxes in the foreclosure process, and you can see 2009, that was our peak delinquent year, where we had $10,144,000 in delinquent taxes versus today's number of, a little over 2.2 million less in delinquent taxes. And I would imagine as a result of that, our foreclosed properties this year were the most they've ever been. We had 39 parcels that I foreclosed on. And typically, we've been ranging from 1 or 2 to up to 12. So this was quite a jump. But I envision that that number is peaking as well, because that's the result of the 2009 taxes. And 10 of those properties were in Lock and Heath. So that explains a little bit of the jump there, but still about double what they typically have been. So I guess the thing that comes from this is that it looks like, I made some predictions for the next 2 fiscal years, and it looks like we will, if these trends continue, have some excess cash in this delinquent tax fund that possibly could be made available or left in the fund to grow. But typically, when there's excess cash, periodically through the years, we've made that available and tried to keep this fund self-funding, but not to the point where it's sitting on cash. It's just for the sake of sitting on cash.
Jason?
Just a question. I mean, obviously our cash balance, our running cash balance is really the important thing, because otherwise we wind up having to go to the bond market.
Correct.
When you see the ebbs and tides, where is our mean? I mean, where are we setting as far as, early or late in the tax paying cycle where we're paying the townships and what have you? Are we ever going below 3-4 million? Because you look back in 2009, we obviously borrowed at one point. Was that as a result of going below, or do we borrow before we reach that level to simply maintain our rating?
2008 and 2009, we got down to zero cash. And what we did is we delayed the payment to the county for our share of the delinquent taxes. So the numbers you want to look at for that analysis are the last 2 numbers where you have the delinquent taxes, and right underneath that, I changed this report after we started borrowing. The number right below the delinquent taxes that we purchased are the funds that were available at the time of that purchase. So you can see in 2010, a year ago, we were very close. We got down to about $200,000 in cash, but I was able to pay everybody off. And currently this year, in 2012, March of 2012, I had actually excess of almost $2 million in cash. But that's, as you can see, the delinquent taxes have gone down that I had to purchase, plus the other taxes, collections are starting to pick up. So we're not holding the receivables for as long as we were in the past.
So Bill, on that $1,150,000 in 2009, we didn't actually go into the bond market. You just basically borrowed it by not paying off the county until the fund built itself back up?
Yeah, well, what happens is, once I settle in March, we start collecting those March taxes right away, and the cash flow within a couple months was enough And I didn't have to delay the payment to any of the other taxing units, but just to the county.
Okay.
And I think the last time we actually were in the bond market was 1993, I think, somewhere in there.
Dean?
Just a couple of comments. Bill, when he started to present this information, when you look at the top half of the report where it lists the transfers out, those are built into the budget. And based on his estimates for 2013, we would have $345,000 less to build into the budget. But that's compared with 2012, which had the appropriation to cover the last payment on the 2008 road bond. So that will be an appropriation that we will not need in the 2013 budget. So even though we have that difference, there's an offsetting expenditure that we don't have. And the last comment is this fund is very important to the county's overall financial position. The bond raters, when we go out to issue bonds or refund any of our existing debt, in addition to the general fund, they're always quizzing Bill and I on, what our balances are here. So fund balance, again, on the top half of this report, fund balance is a very important number, but Bill also mentioned that cash balance is critical, too, for a lot of reasons. So this is a very important fund to the county's overall financial position.
Any other questions of Bill? Sonny?
Well, as long as I have Bill right here, and I just happen to have tomorrow morning's packet with me. The discussion tomorrow will be the 39 parcels of property, whether the county land bank is going to choose to hold those. And if I read this right, there's $162,000 worth of taxes due on those parcels of property. Is that the way I read it right? Am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, yes, you are.
So, we're going to have to make a determination whether or not the county wants to continue to hold all of these parcels of property, whether we're going to auction some of them. And one of the key pieces, like Bill said, is there's all these Lock and Heath parcels in here. And last year, we had 2 Lock and Heath last year?
Yeah, 1 or 2, I'm not sure.
And then we ended up selling them, but we got beat up really bad on the sales on both of them. So, it's going to be a decision how to handle those parcels.
Chris?
I don't know if anyone knows the answer to this question. You might, Sonny. When we auction something off, like Lock and Heath, do the building restrictions and everything that were approved in the township, those still remain?
Deed restrictions remain.
Okay.
The joke last year was whether or not we got free golf out there because the county owned a couple parcels, but I don't think it worked that way,
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
At least these ones have a road.
Next item on the agenda is the Land Bank Authority, and I see we have Gene in attendance.
Good evening. My name is Jean Dorenzi, the Deputy Director of the Planning and Development Department. And the request today is authorization to schedule a public hearing for your May 30th board meeting to hold a public hearing on an application with the Michigan State Housing Development Authority for $300,000, which is our biannual application from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, which is used for the citizens of Grand Traverse County that meet the eligible income requirements of 80% of the area median income for home repairs. We've utilized this program since 1993. It's been very successful throughout the county, and we're asking through the Land Bank Authority to continue the program and to hold the public hearing.
Sonny?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize the advertising of a public hearing at the May 30th county board meeting in regard to the $300,000 MSHDA home repair grant.
Second.
Everybody understand the motion? All in, Jason?
I just, a quick question. I realize this is just voting on the hearing, but at any opportunity, I'd like to take the opportunity to speak to this. What is our cost as far as our administrative cost of this particular program right now, roughly?
For the administrative cost for this program, we received $54,000.
Right, and then we're taking this out of the grant now because of the way that it's set up.
Correct.
It's actually able to be taken out of the grant. So just so people understand, there is a roughly 20% cost to administer $300,000 and worth of redistribution. I just wanted that to be clear. And we should take a roll call. I mean, versus I'm not going to support at any point.
I understand.
Thank you.
If I can remember to have a roll call. Any other discussion or comment? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yeah.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman?
No.
Inman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Gene.
I didn't get to vote.
Ross? Oh, he didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richardson.
You should just say no for the fun of it.
It's right by Wendel's name, that's how come I missed it.
Thanks, Gene.
Well, she tried to leave you off, right?
Sorry.
Poor Ross.
I wasn't even trying to dodge it.
I had a better percentage for a moment there.
Next item is Administration and Human Resources, and Jen, would you want to give us a county administrator update?
I think we can start taking this off the agenda now.
But Larry wanted one more time. See?
I really don't have an update for you. So, other than Bob Cooney and I met this week and finalized the contract, and Larry just got back into town, and we'll be signing that tomorrow. So
The only thing I wanted to bring up, Mr. Chairman, is something that Commissioner Wheelock had said a month or two ago, and that was, when we get Dave on board, or when we selected our county administrator, would we consider having some kind of open house for the community leaders and the public to get Dave introduced, and how would we approach that and go about it? So I don't know if we'd make that decision tonight, or have Jen come back with a recommendation, or just wait for Dave to come in and then figure it out from there.
I think my recommendation would be wait until he's here and give, not overwhelm him immediately the first day, and then.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Give us.
Oh, where's your spirit of adventure?
Yeah, well.
I think that's fair. Allow him to get here and get acquainted a little bit, and then we can parade him around.
Okay, good. All right. That's all I
Thank
have.
you, Jen. You got anything else you'd like to report on?
Nope.
Health officer?
Nope.
Nope. You're keeping mum, huh?
I've talked to Dave about it. Let's put it that way. He would like to be involved in that process. So
Okay.
we're moving forward, but we just got to wait for the right people to get here.
We need to wait
Speaking
for
of the
Dave.
health officer, did we get the approval from the state in regard to Jerry's interim appointment?
Yes, we did. He is golden.
6 months.
Dean, did you have anything?
No, other than the addition to the agenda.
Yep.
And I'm going to have Jerry walk us through that.
Hey, Jerry?
because-
Jerry Pugh, Acting Health Officer. Thank you for allowing me to add this to the agenda tonight, just with the new state process. If we can get these items approved as they come in, it just expedites the processing from our end. So there's two pieces to this. Basically, we received an increased allocation to our WIC program, which is based upon our increased caseload that we're servicing of $19,312. And the second piece basically has to do with the federal government changing the contract period for the emergency preparedness dollars to a period ending June 30th as opposed to July 31st. So the decrease that you see will be decreasing an allocation that was determined based on last year's contractual amount, and then the increase of $31,552 represents what the funding level will be for the subsequent year, and that's really just for 3 months. So actually, our bioterrorism money for 2012, 2013 will increase by about $16,000 for the year. So what we're requesting is that you would approve this contract amendment tonight.
Ross?
I move that we approve amendment number 3 to the comprehensive planning, budgeting, and contracting as presented, contingent on the review and approval of Al Schneider, prosecuting attorney.
Support?
Chris?
I just have an odd question. What is, how do you, you have it listed twice here, bed bug surveillance, education and outreach. How do you do bed bug
You
surveillance?
don't want to know. But if you want to volunteer,
You want to volunteer?
That's why,
No!
that's why he had Ken
Thank you.
Scott on staff.
This is,
I did read this.
yeah, Commissioner, this is standard contract language that goes out
Okay.
to all agencies
All
throughout
right.
the
I
state.
just-
And some of it pertains to us, and some of it
All right.
does not. So far, we have not started bed bug surveillance in Grand Traverse County.
Okay, as I said, it was an odd question.
Jerry, I'm glad she asked that question, because my question was, how bad is the infestation? And you haven't started it, so you don't know.
No, I don't. I haven't been bitten myself yet.
Any other questions?
This is simply an amendment to a contract where there's more money coming in for your department from
Correct.
Okay.
And I guess just to clarify, I mean, what I wanted to mention also, we actually have some vacancy of public health nursing staff in our staffing plan. Our intention for utilizing this is to probably, or we're in the process of filling a piece of that vacancy that would utilize a portion of this funding.
flush it out with the outside money, essentially.
Right, exactly. No, it'll be less than what we're actually increasing. Before I came here tonight, I thought just for your, I mean, you might find this interesting. This is, if we look at the expenses in our WIC program through 7 months, we have total expenses as of the end of April of $235,000. With this revised grant funding, the amount of funding that we would have earned during that 7-month period is $232,000. So that means as of the end of April, we put about $3,000 of county funds in the WIC program.
Jerry, has there been any consideration on the WIC program for the addition of a dental hygienist?
Well, we'll be working with the dental clinic. Linda Yarrow from Health Department of Northwest Michigan, is talking to us about some additional outreach efforts. Some of the WIC programs have some dental varnish programs that they've implemented. So as we move forward, we're going to continue to look at, all those options.
I had a conversation with a young lady last night that recently graduated, and I was really impressed with the commitment she had, number one, in that field, but even more so than that, and I think Jason would really appreciate the conversation I had with her. She was truly concerned about having a affordable dental hygienist program in Grand Traverse County for the people, number one, that have no knowledge of how important that is, and number two, so that people that are aware but can't afford it, could get those services. And I was really impressed by that conversation, and she happened to mention the WIC program, and that's the reason I asked the question. And I would, based on what she told me, I would really like to see that explored, you know, if possible, and I see you got a little bit of increase here, so.
Yeah, that's, as I indicated, I think there is some funding available. Northwest has indicated that they may even fund a position if we were willing to house someone. But this would be to do the outreach work, but, you know, an extension of that could very well lead to, you know, doing exactly, you know, what you're talking about. There's definitely, you know, although I don't claim to be an expert on any of this, I read some emails, but there's definitely statistical evidence out there to show that there's a lot of interventions that could be made in younger children that certainly would lead to better outcomes of, you know, their dental care.
Yeah, I agree, and that's exactly the line she was talking.
Well, I think a number of those programs will be better suited for discussion once we have the expanded dental clinics north in the new facility.
Yeah, the only reason I even asked Jerry, number one, it was convenient, number two, we had a slight increase in the WIC program, and number three, I wanted to see, you know, if they were aware of that, so.
And the numbers of people we're serving in our WIC program continue to expand.
Right. Hopefully, as the economy improves, you know, we're going to see that level off. You know, it's nice to get more money, but that also means that we're servicing more people, and I think we'll eventually see that level off. I mean, the caseload has been increasing in the 12 years since I've been with the department. I have not seen it go down at all. But, just one other comment on dental. You might recall that we did have a grant from Delta Dental, where we did a little education and outreach through our adolescent clinic in Kingsley, because there really is no dental care in that part of the county. So that's also another concern that we have, and, you know, we hope to, you know, move towards addressing that eventually as well.
Thank you. Everybody understand the motion?
Mm-hmm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Now we come to unfinished business, and I don't think we have any.
Finished.
New business, I don't believe we have any of that. And next item would be the second public comment. Do we have anybody in the public wishing to comment on any topic to the board? Yes, come on up. Just state your name and address if you would, please, and sit down and talk into the microphone, because otherwise we're not able to hear you.
Thank you. Name is Joseph S. Connolly. I'm a resident of Garfield at 2825 Hilltop Court, 49686. My question is with regard to the foreclosures aforementioned by the treasurer. Since there's, and this is an exact number, correct if I'm wrong, 39 that have been foreclosed upon. My question is to the future of some of these properties, or to the aggregate, if it's a load that is double the usual amount, how will the county proceed? And I believe that you yourself were making a comment as to this, but with regard to these properties, what the general question is, what is the future for most of these, and then what are the procedures to be able to make some of these foreclosed properties good investments for future?
Mr. Chairman, if you wish, I will comment on that.
Yes, I wish you would, because I think he wants to understand what's going on.
All right, first what happens is all of the properties come back to the county for delinquent taxes. And first, those properties are offered to the state of Michigan. They have the first option to purchase any of those properties for the taxes that are due on those properties. After the state decides not to take the properties, then the county next will offer them to the local units of government that they're in, either the city or the township in which the properties are in, see if they have public value to those townships or local units. And then they come back, and in Grand Traverse County, we have what's called the Land Bank Authority. The Land Bank Authority has the ability to take any or all of these properties. And what we do then at that point is we either auction them at public auction, and the Land Bank currently has a policy that those properties, and Dean, if I get this wrong, you can correct me, but the current policy is that we offer those properties at auction at the state equalized value of the properties, which is generally more than the due taxes. The revenue that is derived from the sale of these parcels of property is used to create what we have as a housing trust fund. That is a fund that the county has developed to use to help people buy affordable housing, or to either provide affordable housing or to upgrade their existing housing. We have in the past partnered with Habitat for Humanity on a couple occasions, where we provide property to them at the county's cost, and then they build housing units on it for people that can't afford, or to make them affordable housing. We last year took 12 parcels of property. I could look, about half of those parcels, I believe, from last year have been sold. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Okay, so of the about 25 parcels of property that the Land Bank currently has record that they have taken out of the property inventory, 13 of those have been sold. So we've sold about half of the parcels of property back. Now some of those sold with some profit. That profit per se went into the Housing Trust Fund. Some of them were sold at a loss. You know, I made the comment earlier about the Locking Heath property. I believe that piece cost us, from the total costs that were due on that piece of property were $12,629. It was sold for $2,615. That piece of property cost us $10,000 to take off the tax roll. But it was a strange piece, and Dean can speak to that a little bit.
He had that correct. Just so you know, the Land Bank Authority meets tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, right across the hall here. So the public are welcome. You're more than welcome to come if you can and learn more about what the Land Bank Authority does.
But generally, we over the last few years, what we've done is we've taken the properties and we've created a housing trust fund. We've used the revenues from selling delinquent tax property to help create the tax fund, and we received a matching federal grant. What is that, Dean, 600,000?
I think the federal grant was 300,000 approximately.
But, we actually received the federal grant very early in the process, and that is money that the county board and the Grand Traverse, on behalf of Grand Traverse County, has committed to help provide affordable housing within our community. And that money will be used in such a time when we can partner with a developer to develop residential property with a contingent that at least a portion of that development has to be available to people who qualify. Gene mentioned earlier, it's 80% of the average mean income. So you have to be below that level. You don't have to be in the poverty range, but you have to be below 80% of the average regional income to qualify for that affordable housing money.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I do believe I'm not maybe the only person who wants to make a comment in this area. I'm just curious. Although I do have another topic, and it says you have 3 minutes on one issue or not. I'm just wondering if there's anyone else who would like to speak. In terms of the last person who spoke on please forgive me, I did not catch that person's name, with the approved measure. I just would like to comment that early prevention is known to save families a good bit of money when there's dental hygiene for the youngest population of, or any real population of people who are in need or at the highest need of dental care. And although I'm not an expert in health, I do believe that any measure to bring forth proper dental hygiene at the earliest age possible for anyone, but particularly since we're here in Grand Traverse County, for Grand Traverse County residents, would be remarkable to do for our citizens. And in terms of why that's important to me, it's because I want to make sure that my own daughter is definitely amongst people who are able to not only thrive, but have the adequate things that include dental care. And I know that that's why WIC exists and other programs like that exist. And I wanted to thank you for allowing me to say so. The only other comment, I don't tend to be brief, so I appreciate your kindness in that regard, but is that if there are measures to save money in the short term, if you're able to make more of an investment in this area, I think it will end up saving families a great deal of money in the long run.
Thank you, Joseph. Anybody else desiring to speak? None of our guests, our bashful guests? You don't want to address them?
And their teacher could verify that they were actually audited with signatures.
Extra credit.
Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Commissioner Committee reports. Commissioners? Jason?
Just make a note that tomorrow, 5:30 in Kingsley, at the Kingsley Library Branch, that there is a library board meeting for anybody who's interested.
Chris?
The Commission on Aging Board met 3 times today, but the one I'm going to report on is the strategic plan. The Strategic Planning Committee did finalize their recommendation to the full Commission on Aging Board. That will be presented to the Commission on Aging Board in June, and then it will be forwarded on to this board for approval. And it really is an excellent piece of work, and a lot of committee members put in a lot of time on this plan.
Any other? Rob?
I was wondering if Dick had a report on the road commission. I got a call today, and I think some of you others might have as well. Did you receive a similar call, Dick?
I've heard a lot of public comment in one call.
Okay.
Yeah, and
They meet tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
Public, a lot of them are upset.
Okay.
And it's not just about one thing, so it's probably something we're going to have to deal with.
Well, I hope you get them straightened out.
Thanks.
Did you happen to know the mother of the caller?
I had brunch with her Sunday.
Okay. Yesterday, I attended the National Police Memorial Officers thing at 1 p.m. outside here at the flagpole, and it was a nice ceremony, and Jason was there, and Herbie was there, Dick was there, and it was fairly well attended. Both circuit court judges were there. Ross was there, and I didn't see any district court judges, but there was a lot of old faces and, of course, a lot of new faces. And one thing I wish the media would have been there a little earlier. The wind was really blowing hard, okay? And it was pretty warm yesterday. And on that corner of the building, the southeast corner of the building by the flagpole, they had a podium set up on where they always set it, right there, not too far off the pillar. And the police officers, the honor guard, all had their back turned and were looking at the building. And podium took off on its own.
Oh, no.
And the wind was blowing the podium, so pretty soon the cops were chasing the podium. But it was a very nice ceremony, so. Any other? Next item is notices and announcements. Larry?
Yes, Linda did a survey on the availability for county commissioners to attend a joint meeting with the Commission on Aging and the Board of Commissioners. And we've come up with a date, but we need to ask you about it, and that would be June 14th at 7 p.m. If you're able to attend that, then we would have everyone available.
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and make those arrangements.
June 14th at
7 p.m. And I'll have Linda send out a reminder notice and work with the Commission on Aging on that one.
7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's to be determined. We need to check.
Probably.
Well, Linda will send out emails or
She'll
whatever.
send out the location.
Probably
Okay.
back room.
Yeah.
Ross?
Under announcements, the US Bike Route 35, which is a north-south route designated on both roads and, bike trails. There's going to be a dedication ceremony at 1:30 on Saturday, this Saturday on May 19th, by the old railroad depot over just off Woodmere Avenue. And a good chunk of both the TART Trail and our local roads are being used as part of this designated bicycle route. So please come if you're interested.
Anybody else? Next item's closed session. I don't think we have any need for that, do we, Dean?
No.
Looking for a motion on 16.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. We're adjourned.